Hello, friends, and welcome. Today we are going to be doing a little bit of Christmas in July. Let's get started. First up is a tin can from the kitchen, and we're going to upcycle it. I give it a good cleaning. I usually soak it with some hot soapy water to make sure we get everything out from the bottom, and then clean the outside real good as well. Now I'm trying to use up this white chalk paint from Dollar General. It is very thin, not very great. So we're going to add in some baking soda, and I'm going to use a little bit, I believe that is Truffle by Waverly, and just mixing that all together. I was just kind of like going for a light brown look, kind of mixed it back and forth till I had what I wanted. I'm going to use a sponge pouncer brush on the can. I kind of wrapped my hand with a paper towel so that when I put my hand in there and like spread my fingers out to hold the can up, and I just didn't want to be pressing along that edge, even though it wasn't like, it was sharp. Anyway, just a suggestion, you know? Anyway, I'm going to, first I spread the paint on with my brush just to get it all over, and then I'm going back with some more paint and that baking soda and pouncing it, and that gives it some really good texture, and it also helps that thin paint just cover a little bit better. But I wasn't going for perfect coverage. I'm drying that down, and then I'm going to do some dry brush. I pulled the paper towel out to dab my paintbrush off, and then was just sticking my hands in there, and I was like, I should have left the paper towel. Um, but I'm going to start off with a lighter dry brush of white, and then I end up going a little bit heavier. But it's important to just, build on it. If you do too much, I guess I could go back with the other color again. But I just went light with the white paint and kept building on it. I'm going to be using a transfer on this. And so, I don't know, I had this old look that I was going for, and I just kind of kept going, playing with the paint. I love to play with paint. And if you mess up, you can always just, paint some more. Then I have this transfer. I believe this was an IOD transfer, but I don't know. A friend gave it to me, and I love the rustic look of it, the vintage Santa, the print itself looks like it has like a torn edge of a paper. So I just love this one. It transferred so easily. I'm just using a popsicle stick. You can kind of see how the top sheet lifts away from the transfer as it kind of lightens up. And I wasn't sure with the textured paint and the textured can, but this transferred very easily. I did speed this up, but it did transfer well. Going to use our top sheet to just rub that in. Isn't that so cute? So I did want to just add in some more rustic look to this. So I'm just going in with some antique wax and a stencil brush. I love the stencil brush from the Dollar Tree. And I just am kind of going in different places. I do all around the rim. Once again, I'm building on this so that it doesn't, I don't know, so that it's not too much at once. I just going to build it until it looks like what I like it to look like. So I did all over the edges, and then I picked a couple of spots to just kind of go heavier so that it looked like a more rustic spot there. I wanted it to be intentional from my end, but I did it to look like haphazard. Anyways, once I had it looking the way I wanted, I took a piece of twine, and I'm trying to thread on a little bell. They have such a small opening, but once I trimmed it, I got it right through. I thought I was going to need to use my little hook tool there, but that worked. We're going to wrap this around just a couple times across the top. I didn't want to go crazy with the embellishment. I wanted the transfer and all of the paint to kind of speak for itself, but a little gold bell from, I think it's probably from a pack from Dollar Tree. I've had them for years because there's so many in there. And just tying that on, and then I'm just going to add in some greenery, use this as a little holder. And I'm getting started, yes, with Christmas. These are new. These are not from last year. But you know what? If you like to DIY for Christmas, you got to get a little head start. So I stuffed a little tissue in there because I'm just using some scraps. So I wanted to help elevate it a little bit. These are actually just the garland ties, and then a couple other just loose pieces from some sprigs. And that is how it came out. Let me know what you guys think of this one down below. I'm really enjoying making over cans. Let me know if you enjoy that as well. But this transfer was just too cute to pass up. Quick announcement. I am now on Facebook, so come and follow me at Simply Enjoying Crafting. All right, for this next one, I had some fabric. This is from Dollar Tree. And then I have this little wooden spool piece, I suppose. And you can get fabric, anywhere, even at like Hobby Lobby. you're not using a lot of fabric. So if you have some projects that you want to do, just go for it. It's really not too much. But I had this from the Dollar Tree, and I don't have exact measurements, but we're gonna make a tree, and I'm doubling up the fabric because we're gonna have two sides here. And so I was just kind of based on what I was using for the base of my tree, the trunk of my tree, and these scissors ended up being not great. So I put them away and switched scissors. Um, Anyways, we're going to just cut it out. You're going to see what we're going to do. So I would say just kind of mess with it based on what you're using here. Now I am using my little mini heat press. There I'm just doing this to crease it. And we're going to just cut out a triangle. So I'm going to go up to about how tall I wanted it. And we're going to find the center. And I'm just using a pencil. On the back side, you're not going to be able to see it. And it's easier for, you're not going to be able to see it in the end project, but it's easier for you to see here. And the pencil works fine. I was going to use a pen, but I didn't have one in my craft room. And I was surprised that the pencil drew so easily on it. But found the center, made a point, and then I'm just using a straight edge to go down to each of the corners. And now I'm just going to iron this because I don't want the fabric to move on me. I'm not pinning it down, which you can do if you want. I'm going to fold it over again, just making sure the point is in the center there. And once again, I'm just going to iron this to keep it creased and it just hold in place. I folded it over again so that when I was cutting the fabric, my scissors cut through it just fine, the 4 layers. If yours won't, then don't do this. But this way I only had one cut, and this was going to make it as symmetrical as possible. And that was, that's how I decided to do it. But you could always like print off a triangle off of the internet on a piece of paper and use that as your template. But here's how I did it. So now I'm going to put them right side out and line them up exactly. And then I am going to iron them now just to, make it nice and smooth. I probably didn't use the parchment paper, but I'm always afraid something might have gotten on the bottom of my iron. I guess I could look, but I didn't want to get anything on my fabric. So now I'm going to use some hot glue, and we're going to glue this together. You could try using some fabric glue, but I didn't have any, so I just used hot glue. And try not to burn your finger. By the very end, I decided to use finger protectors, but I'm trying to go as close to the edge as possible so that I have room for stuffing. And I would say maybe make it a little bigger to give yourself a bigger hem, if that makes sense. So we're going to use this polyfill from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to start stuffing it because I knew it was going to be a little bit tricky to get it up into the point. And so I didn't want to, go all the way to the bottom and have to work my way up. So that is what I'm doing here. But I push it through. I think I'd use too little hot glue on the side. So I think to make it easier for you, just allow for a larger outside hem so you can put a good bit of glue, and that flat piece is just going to be your hem all the way around. Once I get going on it, I've got the good top part stuffed really, to my liking, and then we're just going to build on it. And I'm just doing a little bit at a time so that I can make sure I keep it straight because I just, I didn't want to mess up. So I'd rather take my time on it, and I like to show that to you. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Leanne, and I enjoy sharing budget-friendly DIYs on my channel, and I hope that you consider subscribing before you leave so you don't miss out on my future videos. And turn on that notification bell. That will help. I glued my base in about 1 inch deep because I didn't want there to be too little and have the tree flap around on me. So just kind of keep that in mind. You want it to be nice and sturdy. Also, filling it really well will help with that as well. And now we're going to kind of, again, I'm just building on it because I didn't want it to be too tricky to get all of this in there. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to explain the why behind it to maybe help you out a little bit. Now we're going to put in a bunch of glue on top of it. And I'm just using a little dowel rod to tuck in some stuffing, and we're going to hold that down. I wanted that to get a good seal. And then I'm going to tuck in a little bit more once we get to the bottom here, because I knew that once it was all glued and sealed in, I could kind of use my fingers to move around that polyfill. I wanted it to be nice and full. That polyfill, by the way, I got from the Dollar Tree for $3, and a little goes a long way, so it'll last for a lot of projects. But if you don't have that, You could crumple up some tissue paper. You could use some cotton balls. There's lots of things you can use. If you use cotton balls, you might want to rip them apart a little bit so they don't have as much of the round shape and they're a little bit puffier. And then I'm just going slowly on these parts here to just hot glue the edges close. See, now I put on those rubber finger protectors. The part right around the trunk of our tree, you just have to, I wanted to be careful to not have any glue sticking out, but I needed it really, really close so that the tree wouldn't be flopping around. So just kind of keep that in mind. But this came out really good. I took my time on it to make sure that it came out great. But I love it. Any fabric would be great. For burlap would even be good. Let me know what you guys think of this one. But I think it came out super cute. And this was a fabric I already had on hand. So that is what I went with. A set of like 3 or 5 of these in coordinating patterns would be so cute. For our next DIY, I'm using a star that I picked up from Hobby Lobby years ago on clearance after the 4th of July, but now is a good time to go looking. A lot of times I can get signs like this for like 29 cents, 49 cents, and you don't just have to use stars for the 4th of July. They are great for all sorts of things. So we're just going to sand it down. This sanded down really easy. There was a little bit of tag residue. There was the print on the front here that I just wanted it to be easier to cover up, and I smoothed off the edges. And then we're going to put a coat of Mod Podge on one side here, and I'm just going to brush that out. And you can let this dry, you cannot let this dry. There's lots of different ways to use the Mod Podge. I tend to like the iron-on method the best, but I did not fully let this one dry. But I'm going to use some old sheet music. You can print something off of the internet. You can just get some sheet music, like scrapbook paper. You end up not really even being able to see the words of the song, when it's all broken up. So it doesn't really matter. It was an old Christmas song. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't a super popular one. So I placed the paper on while it was a little bit tacky yet, but I did go over it with a heat press, my mini heat press, but you can use a household iron. Just don't use any steam. And then I am trimming off, I trimmed off the excess paper, and then I'm just trimming down in between each point to make this go a little bit easier. I put a very fine grit sandpaper, and it doesn't take much to get the excess paper off. This is also a thinner paper, but just go down on the edge and you see it just falls right off. This gives you some nice clean lines. I find this to work the best. It's my preferred method. Sometimes a thicker scrapbook paper, combined the two words, almost said something totally different. A thicker scrapbook paper doesn't always sand off as easily, but pretty much all others do. Now for the back, I'm going to use a gold acrylic paint, and I'm just going to, you can see it's a pretty thin. So on the back, I'm going to do 2 coats, and then I'm also going to paint the edges of the star, and I just did that in 1 coat. I didn't mind if it was a little thinner and more rustic looking, I suppose. And also when I was doing the edges, it does kind of go over to the front of the star just a little bit, and I was totally good with that. If you are enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. It's a really easy way to help me out. Also, if you have any hypes available, I know that you only have so many a week to give out, but I do appreciate it and feel honored when I see that people choose to use their hypes on me. Also, another easy way to help me out is to leave me a comment down below. Let me know that you're here. Give me a little greeting. If you don't know what to say, how about you leave me a star emoji? That will let me know that you made it till this point of the video. All right, so once our paint is all dry, I'm just taking a tiny piece of jute twine and tying that just kind of at an angle. And I originally wanted to tie on another bell, but this was just frayed too much. I was kind of having a hard time. Plus, I'd used a small scrap piece of twine, so I was like, forget it. We will attach that a different way. So I trimmed off the edges, and here are my scraps, some of my scraps of miscellaneous Christmas pieces. So when I pull out my Christmas decor, not yet, I have not done that yet, but when I do, sometimes you find little berries or pine cones or greenery pieces that have fallen off of things in the bottom of your bin. Save them, save all the scraps. This here is just a little piece of garland tie, and so I'm just twisting it over the twine, and I'm going to hot glue that down just to keep that in place. And then I have, this is I think considered like that bowl filler type of stuff that Dollar Tree will carry at Christmas. It's almost like a potpourri, but it doesn't smell. but it's got all of those scents or all of those shapes. Sometimes, words are hard when you're recording. These are some berry pieces from Hobby Lobby. It's in like a table scatter bag. So as I always say, look in look in all of the areas, because sometimes you can find things to use them that are intended for something different. But I love these berries. Hot glue that on, and then I'm just going to hot glue the little bell on there as well, and just holding them down real good until the glue sets. But I think this came out really cute. So let's see. Here we go. I love this one. Let me know what you guys think. Any different variety of this will do, but think outside of the box. The star is great. The gold star accent there, I think just works really well for Christmas. And here is them all together. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you are new. And as mentioned earlier, come and find me on Facebook, Simply Enjoying Crafting. I am looking forward to having different things to share there. That might be where I end up doing my Craft With Me lives. So yeah, just come and find me over there. But thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.